Dean Treese, and I am I am the Office of Traffic Safety. So I go out in the community and do presentations. Some of them are virtually, some of them are in person. I was telling Hannah earlier, I say I will come in and talk to people anywhere from age 2 to 82. So if you have a group who needs a presentation, I'm that person. I had actually shown Hannah the presentation ahead of time, and she asked me to add a few things, and I showed her what I added. So I really do customize all my presentations to the group I'm presenting to. So again, if anyone has any questions or anything in the future, I will share my information right now with you so you can see that. And so here's all my information. I normally on non-COVID years, I do about 350 presentations a year, going out into the community and again, discussing being safe near traffic. So today, we'll be talking about the rules and regulations when driving in New York State. Teachers or individuals, please, please, please type in the chat, and Hannah, go ahead and interrupt me if it's a question that, you know, pertains to the screen we're on, because I don't want to miss out on any questions. And I do have a few screens where I'm going to ask information. So either unmute yourself or type the answers in the chat, because I really want everyone to participate. So here we go. So we have to remember, in the United States, driving is a privilege, it's not a right. So it's something you have to do something. You actively have to do something to earn it. In the classrooms, teachers, you can just have people raise their hands. Who has a New York State license already? And if teachers, even if you want to unmute and just give a number, or, you know, let us know, put it in the chat, whatever you need to do, so at least we have an idea of who has what out there.
Might take a minute to collect just all the answers.
Sure.
So we'll hang on for a minute.
Okay. There we go. There's my chat. I lost my chat for a moment and now I found it, so I'm good.
Okay, so
04.
So that is 9 out of 17.
Oh, that's really good. That's
Who
impressive.
is the first one that just answered? 2014770. Is that Mr. Risso or Mr. Levin? Probably.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
We have 5 licensed students.
Cool.
Oh, very nice. Now, the other question I'll ask is, who has an international license? Does anyone have one from the country they came from?
Does anyone have an enhanced license or anything like that?
No, it's not enhanced. It would be called an international license. So what you do is when you leave the country you come from, you get an international license that can be used just when you're traveling. But then once you settle in the United States, you have to get your New York State license.
No one in here has it, including me.
Okay, awesome. Good to know. So there's a few things we'll talk about with that, but it is something, if people have friends who have come to the States, specifically New York State, when you have an international license or a license from the country you're coming from, then you do have to go through what we're going to talk about here, which is getting your driver's license. So again, everything I'm going to talk about today is for people that are 18 years and older. So if anyone in class is 16 or 17, there are more things you have to do. So again, this is for people 18 years and older. So you go to get your permit. It's really simple. You go to the DMV with the required documentation, you pass a written test, and then you pay the fee. So to do that, if you're under 21, you're going to get a license or even a permit. It'll say permit up here. and it'll say under 21, and it actually goes vertically, not horizontally. So you'll see why in a minute. And this just makes it easier when it's identification. People know right away. They don't even have to look at the birth date. They know you're under 21. And then when you turn 21, your new license comes to you in the mail. So that's why it's important to keep your license up to date. You can also get it just as an identification card. You don't have to go through the whole driver's license requirements if that's something you're not comfortable with. So it can be used either way. You just have to go with the information that's on DMV. And DMV has a lot of practice tests. The whole entire manual is online that you can read. And I want to say there are 12 different practice tests you can do at the end of every chapter with DMV that's in the manual. You can take a practice test, and then there's full practice tests. My son did it for almost a year, practiced before he turned 16, because he wanted to pass it the first time. And it's not that the questions are tricky, it's just information you have to know. And when you're an English language learner, it might be a little more difficult to recognize words or understand exactly what they're asking. So just keep that in mind. It can either be for the driver's license or an identification card. And if you're under 21, your ID will go vertically. So now the next thing you have to do is pass the pre-licensing course.
I have a quick question, Jean.
Sure.
Just because I didn't know, if somebody just wants to get an ID card, do they you still have to take the written test?
No.
Oh, okay, so you
No.
can go to the DMV and just get an ID card,
Correct.
no
And
test,
Right.
you do pay a fee?
Yes, I don't know that off the top of my head, sorry. But it's much less than your license. So
Okay.
here where it says driver's license, if you guys can see my cursor moving, it would say identification card instead.
Okay.
And this one is an enhanced license. So the person went through some extra, showing some extra documentation. And you have to read on the DMV website and in the actual paperwork, it tells you what type of documentation you need. It has to total 6 points. So I know sometimes it's difficult. Not everyone has their birth certificate. You may not have a social security number yet. So it lists what you can use to identify who you are. And again, don't know all that information off the top of my head, but the DMV website lists it all for you. But you have to get more points when it's an enhanced license. So just be prepared for that. And the enhanced license lets you travel outside of the country, but only to limited spots. So it may not be the country you originally came from. It allows you to go into Canada. It allows you to get on domestic flights, but it does not allow you to get on international flights. There's one more thing you have to do for that. Or I shouldn't say that. There's a different type of ID that's called a real ID, which is now something you need to get onto those international flights. So just be aware of that. But if you have a passport, that's great. That's something they will use for identification. So the pre-licensing course, in there, it's an in-person course. There are a few that are online. So what it is, it's a 5-hour course. And it just gives you information on being a good defensive driver. So they want to make sure you're prepared to be a driver out on the road, and make sure that you've been learning with someone who is also a licensed driver. So, oh, someone put a chat in there. Thank you, Hannah, for that. In the chat, there is a link to one of the local schools, one of the local driving schools that offers that course. There are also many other in there. You can just put, you can search New York State 5-hour pre-licensing course. And there are other ones throughout the county. So if people live in different areas and coming downtown isn't convenient, because I believe Alright is downtown, there are other places to go. But again, that's only for the pre-licensing course. It's DMV where you go for the identification card, the permit, and then the driver's license. All right. So again, driving is a privilege, and that's why you're passing all of these tests. That's why you have to show identification. You have to show different things. And actually on this one, it says learner permit. I actually probably should have switched my pictures because this one says permit and the other one says driver's license. So you must practice driving. And again, 18 years and older, there's no time frame. 17 and 18-year-olds have to practice for 6 months. So once you get your permit, you practice, and then 6 months later is when they allow you to sign up for what's called your road test. So that would be the last thing you do. But anytime you're driving with a permit, you must always drive with someone who's a licensed driver. So it just can't be someone else in your family who's over the age of 21. It has to be, that person has to have a license from a state that's in the United States or one of those international licenses. And that person must always be seated in the front passenger seat. So they're not sitting behind you, taking care of a couple of kids, trying to give you information while you're learning to drive. They need to be right up front with you to hopefully give you good information about stopping distances, when you can turn right on red, when you can't, when's a good time, when you should be scanning and what you should be looking for, watching your speed. Another question for the group: who knows what the speed limit is in the city of Rochester? And I'll give you a few seconds to kind of poll your class, see what the class thinks it is, the majority of the class, and then you guys can type it in the chat or you can unmute, whatever's easier.
That is a great question.
A lot of people don't know the answer to this question.
The speed limit on the city roads.
On city roads, so just in the city of Rochester, tell me what that speed limit is. We'll see how people do.
I have a feeling, but I'm gonna see what the chat says.
See
or
what the chat
what
says.
people unmute and say.
Okay, so this will be interesting because it's different for the suburbs. So we'll talk
Mhm.
about that. But the city of Rochester does have one set speed limit. And I want to see what people have to
Alright.
say. We have one answer from Kevin G.
A 30.
A
30 miles
30.
per hour.
Okay. And anyone else want to give it a try? Some people said 25 or 30 or 35. And doesn't it depend on if you're near a school, on the 490? I like that. So the 490 is not considered a city street. It's considered a highway. So I'm not including highways. I'm talking city streets. Okay. So on the 490, it's going to be anywhere from 40 to 55 miles per hour. It isn't until the 390, well, actually 490 has it too. When you get farther south within the county, then you get to that 65 speed limit. So when you're out towards Eastview Mall, it changes, or where you're out in Henrietta and you're closer to getting to Lehigh Station Road, it changes to 65. And when you're heading west, it changes to 65 out in the Chi-Li area. All right, so we got some good answers. And the people from, is it Miss McCluskey? Ms. McCluskey, your class is right. So what the actual true speed limit in the city, so if it is not marked as something else, is 30 miles per hour. And the other class, Mr. G's class, got that too. So I'm going to give you guys a round of applause. But
Great
that's
job.
just if it isn't marked somewhere. When you get closer to schools, it sometimes even goes down to 15 miles per hour. It depends on if you are directly in front of a school or on a street that you're going to then turn from a main artery onto a street the school's on. So then it could be 20 and you're going to see those flashing beacons. You're going to see a sign. We'll be talking about some traffic signs soon. So the actual speed limit is 30 unless otherwise posted. And the only time it's 35 if that street goes through city and then maybe it becomes Greece and then it becomes city again, like Westridge Road is a really good example. Because Westridge Road, part of it's city, then you're Greece, and then it's a little bit city again. So because of that, they left the speed limit at 35 instead of having maybe every mile and a half or whatever it might be, changing it back to 30 and then going to 35 again and back and forth, because that would be confusing for people. So that's why they chose to, if it's a main artery that is very close to a suburban neighborhood, that's why they changed it, and it will be 35. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're driving. But if you don't see a posted sign, it's 30. Should I be driving 32 or 34? Who knows that answer? Should I be going over that 30 mile per hour limit? Who wants to give a guess at that one? I shouldn't say guess. Who wants to give me the correct answer? See what people have to say. So again, you can just unmute yourself if you'd like, because that's a quick yes or no. Should I be going over the 30 mile per hour limit if it's not posted with a different one? Oh, I like that. You should never speed. And that's should never speed is in caps.
Overwhelming.
So that's awesome.
Very emphasized.
Yes, we got to
Absolutely
know. Awesome. So actually, you're correct. That limit is the highest you should be going. And we're going to talk about that a little later in the presentation. So keep that in mind. Just because the traffic around you is going that speed doesn't mean you have to. So you want to always keep it under that limit. So it's a limit. It's telling you what the highest is you can drive. All right. So once you're done with your practice driving, again, with all of this information, even as an adult, you still have to follow this where it still has to be with a licensed driver. So just because you get your permit does not mean you get to just get into a car alone and start driving. The law is it has to be with someone who is a licensed driver and at least 21 and in that front passenger seat. And then you can schedule and hopefully pass your road test. So even with all the studying and all the practice driving my son did, and even with the job I do, my son failed his road test the first time. And here he did it almost 9 months after he had his received his permit, because that's when he felt he was ready. I let him decide when he wanted to do it. And also, just so you know, at the 6-month mark, they might have appointments that are still even a month away. So you can start looking maybe at the 5-month mark and then decide if it's something you want to schedule at that point. So the nice thing is you can schedule it at 5 months, but they'll only give you dates that are at the 6-month mark. And again, those are for 16 and 17-year-olds. 18-year-olds, you don't have to wait. So if you were a driver in the country you came from, you might already have those skills. So it could be something you can schedule your road test sooner. But we do want you to practice because some of the rules here are different than the rules in other countries. So we want you to be aware of that. All right. So for the drivers that we have, has anyone received any type of tickets? So there's different types of tickets. There are moving violations and then there's parking violations. So has anyone in your classroom, if they're either have their permit or their license, raise your hand if anyone's received any type of ticket. Again, with your permit or when you have your driver's license. And let's see what kind of answers we get. Because tickets count as points. And when you have a driver's license, you start with 11 points. And once you get to that 11 points, you lose your license. A couple with speeding tickets. Can I ask how much over the speed limit they were going? If they want to share, that would be great. And there are also some ways to reduce those, thank you, that ways you can reduce the points on your license. So we can talk about that in a moment also. So this is great that some people are letting us know. I mean, some people think it's embarrassing they received a ticket, but hopefully it's something you learned from. It's enforcement, it's enforcing the law, but hopefully it's an education moment too, where you understand the choice you made. I always call it a choice. It wasn't a mistake. You should know what it was. Oh, speed limits for both were 55 and one was 85 and the other was 72. So the person with the 85, it looks like you received 6 points on your license. And the other person, it looks like, did I just do that math right?
Mhm.
No, I didn't. 30.
No?
It was 8 points on your license because, no, it was 30. So yes, it was 6 points on your license. And the other person, it would have been 4 points on your license. So that kind of takes away from you having a good driving record. If you're looking to get a job where you're going to be a driver, or maybe you're looking to be an Uber driver, or you want to deliver for Instacart, those jobs you may not get because they're going to, especially if it's something where you're driving frequently for your job, they are going to ask you for, whoops, went the wrong way. They're going to ask you for a history of your driving information. And you actually get that from DMV. I believe it costs $10 right now. They used to be $7. I think they're up to 10. And hang it off today. Can you give that person my phone number and I can speak with them? So you're going to give them 753-3018 and I can let them know about that because there's a lot of things that questions I have to ask about that. So again, moving violations are when you get the points. So the two people that receive the speeding ticket, those points will stay on your license for 18 months. And your insurance will most likely go up during that time. And especially if you're a new driver, your insurance will go up. Even if you have other people on your insurance, you're still going to, all of you are going to unfortunately have to pay the price for that higher insurance payment. And again, some employers, if you're going to be driving, are going to look at that. It's called an abstract of your driver's license, is what they'll be asking you to show them. And a lot of the violations will stay on your license anywhere from 5 to 10 years. It depends on how severe the tickets were.
Not the point.
Hello?
I just want to say that the student who had the 85, it was reduced to a parking ticket, she said. So she didn't
Oh
get
my
the points
gosh.
on her license, but the other student got 4 points on his license.
4 points.
The one who was 72 and a 55. So
The person who had it reduced, you should be so happy. Normally that does not happen. So for you to have that happen, that's huge. They normally do not reduce tickets, especially tickets that are speeding tickets that high. So please, please, I hope you learned from that driving the speed limit is what we need and what needs to be done. Sometimes you also have to get a lawyer involved, which is going to cost you money. And then there's the fines and fees on top of that. So the fees that you pay are actually fees that go to New York State. It isn't a fee that might stay here, or fees don't stay in the county. So the only positive thing I say when you get a ticket is that $93 fee helps balance the New York State budget. So you just did something good for all of New York State, even though it's your $93 coming out of your pocket. And the fines will vary, and judges will vary on what type of fine you receive. So she might have had it reduced, but had to pay a higher fine because of that. So again, judges have their own discretion. Police officers have their own discretion on the side of the road. So my biggest thing is don't ever lie to a police officer, because as soon as you do that, trust is gone, because they've only known you for maybe 10 or 15 seconds now, and you want to be sure you're as honest and open with them as possible. So if they come up to you and say, do you know why I pulled you over? Tell them what you think the reason is. And if you're not sure, then say, I'm not sure. And hopefully the conversation will go well from there. But always be open and honest, because that will just help you down the road. So very important. So any questions on tickets and points? Oh, no, I shouldn't ask that yet, because if you need to have points come down on your license before the 18 months. So what happens is every 18 months, 3 points will drop off whatever number of points you have. So if you only had 2 points for failure to use your directional, your signal, they would disappear at 18 months, which hopefully down the road, your insurance company sees that and they're going to bring the cost of your insurance down. But if you keep getting tickets and then, maybe 2 points or 3 points drop off, and then you get another ticket and it adds up to 4 or 5 points, and that keeps happening, that's going to be a consideration, something that your insurance company and the police officer and the judge are going to take into consideration when it comes time to talk about fines, fees, or the amount you pay. So keep that in mind. That's important to remember. But there is a course. It's called Points and Insurance Reduction Program, or PIRP, P-I-R-P. There are many, many places within the county that offer this course. They range in price. Some of them are $25 and some go all the way to $65. It really depends. The only thing that course will do for you is reduce points on your license. You can take it every 3 years, but it only takes off 3 points. It doesn't do it for 3 years. It takes off 3 points that you may have on your license at that time. So if you're getting close to the 8 or 11 points, that's a good course to take, because it'll automatically take 3 off. And then every 18 months, you'll lose or you'll come down another 3 points. Plus, you do get an insurance discount, but you have to talk with your insurance agent, because it could be 10% on just parts of your insurance, maybe on just the liability, but not on the comprehensive part. So it's not 10% on the full amount. But the nice thing is too, that 10% lasts for 3 years. So if your insurance company does raise your insurance because of a ticket or your driving habits, taking that course, and you can take it every 3 years, there's a form that you send into your insurance company, and then they know you've taken the course and will include that percentage off in your insurance. So good questions to ask your insurance company if you do end up getting tickets or points. So any questions there? All right, great. So next thing is I want to see if you guys know your road signs. So some of them have pictures on them and you can see what they are, and others don't. But those signs are only used for one specific reason on the road. So the signs that are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it has a picture. Want to see if you know what that one means. 6 and 7. So we'll give you like 3 or 4 minutes for your class or individually. Put together what you think are, what you think the answers are for each one of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we'll maybe do a little competition and see which classroom gets the majority of them correct. So go, you guys have some fun, think about it, have some discussions, what you think it might be.
And I would say that these are probably some of the most important ones.
I agree. And that's why I chose those ones, because they're more of the important ones. Well, they're all important, but these ones are very high on that list. So I'm curious to see what people know.
We can let, obviously all the classrooms are talking, but I was just gonna say that I haven't gotten any tickets with points, but I've gotten a couple parking tickets in Rochester on side streets that they just I feel like the cars waiting to give the tickets are waiting for the time to turn on the side streets, and then they zoom and give you a ticket. And I actually walked outside, saw the person giving the ticket on my car, and I was like, wait, can you please take it back? I'm moving my car right now. And no
And
can do.
Sometimes it's difficult. So the tickets I discussed were all moving violations. Parking tickets are a whole different world. And if anyone has questions on those, we can talk about that too. Maybe at the end if people have questions. So parking tickets are different than moving violations. So give you a couple more minutes, or maybe only a minute and a half. So let's see what people have to say. We'll see how classes do. Maybe if you even write them down on a sheet of paper and hold them up in front of your camera, then we'll know which teams are who and see how the classrooms do. Or teachers, if you wrote it up on your board and maybe you can move your camera to, your dry erase board or your chalkboard, whatever you have. So let's see how everyone's gonna do. Because I'm interested. And even if you're not a driver, you're someone who's a passenger in a vehicle, it's good to know these signs because you may be able to assist the driver if they don't see that sign. Like number 7, if they're starting to turn down a street and you see number 7 and they're going in the wrong direction, I just gave you guys a big hint on that one. You could tell them. So let's see what we're gonna get. Number 5 is the one I want to see how many people get. Because that one's a little tough. Do you know that one, Hannah?
I don't think so.
Mm.
Gosh. I don't even know. No.
You don't know? It doesn't mean do donuts or drive in a circle, okay? It doesn't mean, well, no, I don't want to give any more hints. There you go, a little hint. Okay. We can see there's all different types.
Does anyone
All right.
have
Anyone have their
ready to
answers?
share? If you don't have them all, it's okay.
Yep.
Maybe just what you have right now.
Yeah. So what I can also do is we'll do this on the honor system. I will start talking about each one and we'll see if people got them right.
One.
Okay. Oh, someone gave the answer to that one. Good job, whoever did that. It's one of the harder ones because we don't have a lot of those here in Rochester. So it's not a sign you see frequently. Lane merged for number 1, just so everyone knows that's not correct. That one's wrong.
I think you're looking at the one of the signs next to,
Yeah, so the numbers are on this side. See how I kept them all on one side of each of the signs I want you to look at. All right, so we're ready. I'm going to start listing them and let's see how you did. All right, so the first one is a very, very important one. It's actually the one I think is the most important because this one says there's a school crossing ahead. So this sign is the sign that will tell you that there is a school ahead. Most of the time, they will put something there with a reduced speed limit or have flashing lights to let you know. Number 2, everybody should have gotten right because this is just, that octagon means you better stop. All right, so that's important. Now, number 3, the place you see this is at one-way streets or the entrance to a highway usually. So this one is do not enter. All right, so it kind of goes along with number 7. Did anyone guess number 4? Anybody? I'm just gonna look real
nobody
quick.
gets 4.
No, nobody did. So number 4 is your yield sign. So that one, does anyone know what yield
Good job,
means?
guys.
Anyone know what yield means? Oh, so we missed the question of direction. Sorry about that. So what we were doing is the numbered signs, people could look at those and without seeing the words on them, guess what the signs were. So sorry you missed that, but now we're revealing what each of the signs mean. So yield means you have to yield for vehicles that are, maybe you're merging onto a highway or a lane is ending. That's what this one means. This means a lane is ending and you have to merge in to make sure. So this means the left lane's ending and you need to merge into one lane. So sometimes you see the yield sign, or it also means stop. So it can mean different things. So very good, but it is yield. Number 5, some of you got it. It's a roundabout, and those roundabouts are tough. We don't have as many as other countries. Roundabouts are huge. They use them all the time. But here in the United States, they're a new, it's actually called the traffic calming, CALMING, traffic calming. And what it does is it hopes it slows people down. And it also makes it so there's less lights for people to have to go through. And you're kind of always, when you want to exit it, you're always at the right side. When you want to stay in it, you stay on the left side. And a good example of one is at Titus Avenue and the 590, Route 590, heading down towards Seabreeze, towards the lake. And there's another one that is on Buffalo Road where it meets Mount Read Boulevard. And there's one out on Kendrick Road by the U of R. So again, we don't have too many here, but other areas you may see more of them. Now, number 6, did you guys change it? I know who wrote something for number 6. Yeah, one of the number 6s was wrong. Said, oh no, I guess I took it the wrong way. So that one's a railroad crossing. And this is actually called a crossbuck. And the crossbuck tells you that the railroad is there. And what you have to do is make sure you're, even though those arms aren't down and those lights aren't flashing, you still have to be aware. And I always tell people slow down and still look down the tracks both ways to make sure there isn't a train coming. And all school buses must stop at a railroad crossing. It's just what they have to do to be sure that those children are going to be safe. And then this last one kind of goes along with this do not enter. That's your one-way sign. So it means it's a one-way street. It can only go in one direction. So great. This sign means your divided highway on this side is ending. This is becoming a divided highway. This one's self-explanatory, no U-turn. And here, this one means maybe you were on a one-way street and now it's becoming two-way traffic. And it's opposing traffic, which means one car is coming this way and the other car is coming that way. So it's opposing lanes of traffic. So good job. Glad you guys played that with me. It's kind of fun. All right, so really important to talk about our New York State seatbelt law. We never share seatbelts, ever. Seatbelts are made for one person. They're not made for 2 or 3 people. Any passenger or driver in a vehicle, any occupant, meaning someone in the vehicle, they each have to have their own seating position and their own seatbelt. Because for children, those seatbelts might be used with a booster seat or a car seat that's facing the front of the car or a car seat that faces the rear of the car. And this is the proper way to wear a seatbelt. So here in New York State, we're what's called the proper use law. That means you have to be wearing your seatbelt this way when it's a 3-point belt. So 3 points, it touches one, your shoulder, a hip, and your second hip. So that's why it's called a 3-point belt. It touches, 3 parts of your body. So very important to understand that. And again, everybody in the vehicle needs to be wearing them. That law changed in November of 2020. And because of COVID and all our news was focused on COVID and what was going on with the pandemic, a lot of people missed that now, no matter where you're seated in the vehicle, you must be restrained, just like this says, restrained by a seatbelt or a child restraint. And there are some child restraint laws. And if anyone needs more clarification on that, we can talk about that. I think I might, Hannah, how many more presentations are we doing? Because I might have a whole separate one on that.
Have 2 more.
2 more. So I am doing that one separately. So we'll talk about that more in detail. Okay. So what are some distractions we see on the road? And as a passenger, maybe distractions you've seen the driver doing or distractions in vehicles around you. So something someone's doing, and what distraction means when it concerns driving is you're doing something else besides driving. So I'll have you guys real quick for a quick minute discuss, just shout out to your teacher what things can distract a driver. And we'll see when I show some pictures if you guys got a lot of them. And there's many more than the pictures I'm showing. I just want to make you aware of that too. So talk about what things can distract the driver. And we'll see how everyone does. So I'll have pictures showing some of that. Give you guys just a few more seconds. All right, now one thing I'm going to ask too, if you were the passenger in a car and the driver was distracted, did you say something? Okay, oh, we got 2 in there, really good. No texting or putting on makeup. See it all the time. I drive a lot for my job. Cell phones, there you go. Could be up here, could be Bluetooth in your ear. Girls, radio, and children. What about boys? I think boys can be just as distracting too. Oh, you're so funny. You guys are killing me. Teenagers, a big one. So if people have teens and you're getting them ready to be a driver, that's a tough one. Kevin, why are you putting on makeup? That's a good one. All right, so we're going to show them to you now. And again, these are not all of them. I have just put some pictures up here to show you. So of course, eating's a big thing. And look, she's drinking and has her cell phone up there. This guy's shaving. Do that at home. You like to be doing that when you're driving. So this young man is actually looking at what his friend is showing him. So he's not holding the phone, but he's looking at it. All right. Sometimes the control's in the car. So this one, even his attitude, it's not even the phone, but it's driving angry or driving sad or upset. Maybe you just had a fight with somebody, an argument. That can be a very, very bad distraction. Look at this woman. She's not even thinking about her child. She's on her phone and her child's in the back seat trying to tell her something. So she's getting distraction from the child, distraction from the phone. A lot of things could be going on. This, hopefully she's telling this gentleman, hey, get off your phone. Because if you are a passenger, you should be telling that driver, hey, don't be distracted. If they need to use a phone, maybe you can do it for them. You can make the phone call. You can send a text message. You can be the person to help them. So I always say, be a great passenger and always be a good defensive driver, because no one's a great driver. If you say you're a great driver, you're lying to everybody, because it's not true. All right. And here's our makeup. And look, pets. Think of if you were in a crash, what would happen if that pet got smushed by that airbag? And it leads us into this next slide. Speed is a factor, unfortunately, in 50% of all crashes. And that's everywhere. It's the United States, that's in other countries. Unfortunately, we like to drive fast. And the higher the speeds, the higher the crash forces. So quickly or after class, teachers, you can explain this formula I have here. It's a physics formula. It's made very simple. So it's not this big formula. I've made it much smaller and easier to use. So it's the weight of the person in the car times the speed is how much your seatbelt, remember, we have to have that seatbelt on, it's how much your seatbelt has to hold back. So it's the force you're going to apply to your seatbelt. And even if you have your seatbelt down, sometimes it even can cause an injury, because as again, the speeds get higher, the forces get higher. So if you weigh 100 pounds and the car's going 30 miles per hour, you just became 3,000 pounds of force. And that's a lot. So after class, teachers, or after this presentation, I think it's great. Get to do a little math and see how much those forces can be in a crash. All right. Driving impaired by alcohol or other drugs. So we have what's called the STOP DWI program. We are the only state who has this specific program. It's actually a law, and it is mandatory that every state has this, or excuse me, every county, all the 62 counties in New York State have this office. So my supervisor is the STOP DWI coordinator. And unfortunately, she has like an $800,000 program at this time. In years past, it was a $1.1 million program. And the reason I emphasize this amount of money is if you get a DWI, driving while impaired, or a DWAI, driving while impaired by other, or there's DWAI, driving while ability impaired is a DWAI, and then there's a DWI with drugs. So unfortunately, I'm going to show you a slide. It costs a lot of money. And the reason the program has so much money is sad, because it's all the fines that are paid by the people in Monroe County who have been stopped and receive a DWI. So it's all the fines, which I'm going to show you next, stay here in the county. So if it's a fine you pay in the court, our county keeps that money. And it is unfortunate that that program has so much money because it is from the fines. So here's the fines right here. It's this number here. So think about it. We in the past used to have probably 2,800 to 3,000 arrests a year. Unfortunately, in the last couple of years, it has gone down. And the reason it's gone down is, first of all, the pandemic, less people are on the road, but also the people that are getting the tickets may not have the funds to pay the fine. So the judge may waive that fine, but nothing else can they waive. The only thing they can waive is the fine. Everything else you have to pay. And even though a lawyer, your defense attorney, says $1,500, that's not a good lawyer because that's not a lot of money. Most lawyers will start out around $3,000. So that's why there's a plus after this. So we were on the low side of a lot of these numbers. That's why there's a plus here. A DWI usually will cost you $10,000. And the way I look at it is, hopefully you didn't kill anybody because it was your choice to drive impaired and cause a crash or cause you to get pulled over. Because when your body's impaired by a depressant, that's what alcohol is. It depresses your immune system. It makes it harder for you to make reactions. Sometimes it makes it harder for you to see or even hear. It makes it so your body is not going to react as quickly as it should. But one big concern we have now is the other drugs. And does anyone know what drug was just made legal in New York State? Either unmute or let us know in the chat. There was a drug that just became legal. Just because a drug's legal doesn't mean you can drive under the influence of it. Same thing, just because alcohol's legal. I'm not saying you can't drink. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. It's when you get behind the wheel of a car that weighs 4,000 pounds. Now you become a public safety issue, and your choice can injure or kill other people. Thank you, Kevin. So marijuana was just legalized. Again, it might be legal, but it doesn't mean you can drive under the influence of it. So a lot of people have a little confusion with that. And there may be times where you're walking down the street and the car that goes by you smells of marijuana. That's not what we want people doing, driving and smoking. If you want to smoke, that's fine. That's your personal business. We just don't want you behind the wheel after you've smoked marijuana or after you've had too much alcohol to drink. So keep those things in mind. And if anyone has any questions, happy to answer those too. And this one's my favorite. Do not drive tired or drowsy. Once you've been awake for at least 18 hours, and yesterday I had that day. Yesterday, I was up at 5:30. I did not go to bed last night until a little after midnight. I was up for 18 hours. If I realized we were out of bread and we needed bread for the next day, should I go out and drive a car? And no, we shouldn't. So many studies have been done. State Farm, AAA, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and shown that driving while you're tired or drowsy is just like driving with a 0.08 blood alcohol concentration. And I forgot to mention that in the previous slide. A 0.08 blood alcohol concentration is the legal limit for driving impaired by alcohol. So you're not going to probably look like you're drunk, but your reactions are going to be similar. You're going to have a hard time keeping your eyes open. And the only thing that helps when you're tired or drowsy is sleep. Drinking coffee might help you for 20 minutes. Opening up the window and blowing cold air on yourself is not going to do it either. So a lot of times will tell you, if you can, pull over to a safe area and take a 20-minute nap. And a lot of times that will rejuvenate you or help you not be as tired, even for that short amount of time. And then maybe don't drive as long as you had really wanted. So who knows what makes a good defensive driver? Anybody? What things can you do? Defensive means you're always on the lookout. You're aware of your surroundings. You're driving under the speed limit. You are not impaired by alcohol or other drugs. You're doing things you should be. So what are those things you can do to make yourself a good defensive driver? If people want to unmute and let people tell us, that would be fine. Or type them in the chat. Is that
Checking your
time?
mirrors.
Yeah. Oh,
It's a
looking in
good
your
one.
mirrors. Yes.
Yeah, checking the mirrors.
Yep.
Fast they come in.
Looking for traffic that's
Remember
coming.
the days I used to rush to work, trying to get to work on time.
Okay. Anyone else?
One morning, I almost got to an accident.
Scanning around while you're driving,
Anticipate the danger.
anticipate the danger, no phones, no music.
Oh, avoid road rage. That one just came up in the chat.
Avoid road rage.
That one's huge. Thank you. We had 2 classrooms say that. My biggest pet peeve is when people don't use their directional, because I don't know where they're planning on going. And if they stop fast because they were going to make a turn and I didn't know that, that's a bad choice on their part. So that's one of my big pet peeves, when people don't do that. Anything else? Oh, the time of year is coming, snow. Clearing off your vehicle, the front of your vehicle, your windshield, all the windows, the back of your vehicle, and especially the roof, the top of your vehicle. Because when all that snow blows out on other people, it's not a good thing. So driving slow enough also for the weather. Sometimes you even have to drive slower than what you think, especially when we have that first snow or that first little ice storm. People forget and go into that ice or snow and are stuck, or they spin around. You might not hit anything, but you just might spin around and be facing the wrong direction once that's done. So keep those things in mind. And are there any other questions? Because we're just about out of time. No?
Yeah.
All right.
See if anyone does. Jean, this was a great presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for allowing me to come in. I feel privileged that I get to come in and talk to you, and
Yeah.
help you
There is a question, but it's gonna take a minute, so please wait.
Yeah, that's totally fine. We have until 11:15. It'll go until.
oh, we do? Oh, okay. Then
Yeah.
we're good. We have lots of time. So if your class can stay on with us, that would be great. But I love the questions and the feedback from everybody. I really appreciate it, because I know with a virtual presentation, it's a little harder to do that. I'm used to coming in there and seeing you guys in person, and I always love that. You're always very responsive to my questions, so I think that's really good. So any questions or anything anyone want me to go over a little more, or something they feel they need more information on, happy to do that.
Okay, so the question is, what are the technical points of parallel parking?
Oh, that is a good one. Parallel parking's tough. And when I had to do it for my road test, I actually did it on a street that didn't have curbs. So I kind of was lucky, because I wasn't going to hit a curb because there wasn't one. So with that, actually, there are lots of good videos out there on YouTube. But the best thing you do is you pull up next to the vehicle. So here's, oh, look what I have here in my little van, okay? So here's the car, and I want to back in here. So here's my car. I'm going to pull up next to them. And as I back, I'm turning my wheel, and I should be like 45 degrees by that bumper. That's when I start turning, is by that bumper. And then as I slide in, I turn the other way, and that's what gets me right in there. Sorry, I didn't have two cars to show you that with. So I'm going to start here. You should be pretty even with that car, but not too close to them. And you're going to start backing and angling yourself till you get about 45 degrees. So it means I'm at a different angle now. All right, I'm kind of facing into the road. And then I start turning the other way as I come back in. And the way to practice that sometimes is to do it when there's not a vehicle behind the car you're doing it in, just so you can get the idea of how much you have to turn. And then, so you're turning one way, and once you get about midway or a third or midway into the spot is when you start straightening out and coming back. So if you have two vehicles or a friend, it's a good thing to go into a parking lot and park a car and just have the other one coming in behind it. And that one does take a lot of practice. I will tell you, I work downtown. I do have to parallel park quite frequently. So I have gotten very good at it just for that reason. So if you live on a street where you have to do street parking and you don't have a driveway or a parking lot, that's something you really should be proficient in and practice a lot. And even after you get your license, you can still drive with a licensed driver who can still keep giving you hints. Because when you practice drive, you're not going to see every scenario. So the better you can get at something happens with more practice. So I'd highly recommend that. But again, there's some pretty good videos out there that show you how to do that.
Jean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's this really good tip that I learned when I was taking a driving lesson, that when you are parallel parking, you pull up next to that car that you want to back up into the spot of, and you pull up next to them, you start backing up, and you're looking out the passenger window. And once you see the tail light of that car that you're next to, then you can start turning your steering wheel.
Very good.
That's the way I learned, and it's worked for me every single time, and I got no points taken off my parallel park. So
It's
hopefully that
awesome.
would help.
So yeah, so not the closer, but the more even you are with that car at first. And when you start that back, and if I look out my window, my passenger window, and can see that brake light, then I know I can start turning. So that's a great visual, something you can look for. So thank you very much for that, Hannah.
Yeah, sure.
Anyone else?
Okay, France is leaving.
Yeah, saw that.
All right.
All right, but remember, if anyone has questions, feel free to call me. I'm in and out of the office, but leave me a voicemail. I'll call you back.
It's
I'm off Thursday.
753.
Yep.
318.
018. So
753.
753-3018. Feel free to give me a call if you have any questions that are traffic safety related. I can't help you with tickets, but I can point you in the right direction so that the person who had that question, I'm not going to help you that day, but I'm going to point you where you need to go to get that information.
Perfect. Thank you so much.